Howdy, howdy.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right. How about yourself?
Doing all right. So, first things first is quick intros. We still have about 30 seconds, but it's good to at least consent to the recording. You can always not share your face, do aliases, not even change your voice and things like that. So, yes. But we always just make sure people understand that it's recorded and to make sure there's
Oh
consent.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
No problem.
cool. And then we also have notes here. So no, that was a no problem. Yes, you consent to recording.
Yes, yes I do.
Perfect. Okay. Notes for now. Awesome.
I also consent to recording.
Awesome. Thanks, Story. So I got the recording going. I have the notes all ready, and I think we are good to go. So let's make sure I have my timer. Maybe do 15 minutes for our intros and everything. And usually we're pretty informal, but we can always choose a topic if we want to have a topic, which would be awesome. So I'll start with my check-in, and if anyone else jumps on, we'll get everyone else in here and verified on the consent. So check-ins. Ooh, and let me share my screen. I think that also helps. For some strange reason, I can no longer do the recording in Jitsi, just the live stream, so it doesn't have the nice little "we are recording." So I don't know what happened to that, but we are definitely recording. And I also usually do an audio recording as like a backup, which is always nice to have just in case. Well, literally recording always there's always problems. So usually when I'm trying to record, I'll record like have like 2 or 3 recordings going because it never does a recording ever actually work. All right, so my check-in. If anyone wants help with notes, you're welcome to. I am around. Usually we do a number. I'm around like a 3.3. I've been busy, busy, busy. Wow, it's been such an amazing week. I consent to recording, um, and mainly with the NorCal and Southern California. So all the California activities going on with the new servers has just been insane. We have like 1,000 new people showing up for California. Lots going on there. Still so much more to do, but today's our very first California session. So as soon as this is over, we're doing the there's the welcome session, and then there's the West Coast session, then we have the California, and then the NorCal. So I'm really excited about today. Can't wait to just see everybody's interests. Um, Access, I'm so happy that you were interested in stepping up in Northern California and even getting you verified and all that as a facilitator would be amazing. So we could talk about that some. And
Yeah.
yes, other than that, just lots and lots going on. So it is exciting times. I am going to be around for about 2 more weeks, then I'm going to Europe. I'm going to be spending time in Spain and basically doing a lot of global strike organizing and global organizing in Africa, and I'm excited about that. So I won't be spending as much time in California in the United States because it's just the time difference. But then I'll be back eventually. So overall, I just lots of cool things going on. I wanted to see everything expand and grow and get bigger and just connect more with people all over and more decentralization. So, anyways, I go on, check, check, check. Next, who wants to check in next and say how you're doing?
Do we have anybody else that's attended before? This is my first one.
Story's been here before, yeah, but I mean, we're solid.
I can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. I'm Story. I consent to be recorded. I had a pretty good day. I just got back from a spiritual community event. That was really beautiful and fun. And we, put up a maypole and had a feast, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. Sang some songs. So since we're riding that, this morning was less good. Prior to that, I had to, not had to. I was asked and agreed to talk to one of my local GSUS organizers because there's been some conflict there, which I can go into more when we're getting into like the state of the community, right? But yeah, I don't know. So it's stressful, you know. It's stressful having to see a problem, and then it's stressful to have to say this is a problem, and then it's stressful when people take it personally that you like mentioned the problem, instead of just trying to solve the problem. You gotta like spend some time on people's feelings, which do matter, but I wish people had a little more like experience regulating emotions as separate from like community benefit and prioritizing those things in the moment in a way that makes sense. Obviously, I don't want to cause harm. I don't want to stress anyone out to the point where they're like having a panic attack. I wasn't trying to go that far, but like at some point, like you need to be able to talk about problems, especially if you're in a leadership position. So there's a line somewhere. I'm trying to find where it is. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'll add that into potential topics as a just contention and conflict resolution. All that is, I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's the foundation to anything and everything we want to do. So,
Yeah.
So, do you want to check in? Oxus, is that correct? Oxus?
Sure, I'll do what I can. Just getting up to speed here. I attended some little chat they just had up in Washington. I listened in on that this morning before this. I'm kind of getting up to speed, getting more aware of what we're trying to do exactly, and see we're limited in some ways, obviously. Happy to be a facilitator. I don't have a lot of transportation. I'm mostly here at my desk all the time. Retired Air Force IT, so I know a lot. Yeah, and I'm just here to hopefully do get vetted as a facilitator, help some of this meeting people where they are, help bring them on board, help figure out where they're at, what they can hear, how we can leverage them, get them on board, benefit, and even conflict resolution, hearing both sides and being able to say now, how do we move forward productively? Everything. Anything I can do to help, I'm here to help.
Nice. Great. So I would say that our potential topics, if we want to do a topic, we can always just do informal, but it's good kind of getting an overview. Potential topics, we have just what it means to become a facilitator and kind of answering questions there, and like the vetting process and things like that, kind of help out. Oxus. We could also talk about the conflict resolutions. I think it's very important. The other thing is just kind of like overall update on I would just say the expansion of the Discord servers and everything going on within GSUS, and just like kind of like Starfish sort of implementation. It's all a very interesting time in GSUS, and I sort of see these sessions for what they are. I mean, obviously there's not a lot of us, but just like kind of taking a snapshot every week of sort of what's going on and taking a little recording and actually having it documented long term. So maybe in 10 years you look back on it and it's like, oh wow, that's what was happening that week, So
this is going to be one amazing documentary. One like a year or two into the project, we should absolutely turn this into a thing.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I love it. Yeah. So anyways, we can just continue doing informal and kind of just do rounds and go around. Or if we want to get focused on one of these topics, we could do that too. What do y'all think?
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I've been around GSUS stuff for about a year now, almost, coming up on that. And excuse me. If you have any specific questions, I can answer them here and now. If it or send you links and resources to be helpful. You're also welcome to just like DM me like a list of questions. I'll just answer them. I'm very comfortable. Like a lot of my time on the server is spent doing education, including like new people orientation or answering questions. So I'm equipped for that. And yeah, I actually I love some help conflict resolution, figuring out where to go from here. Because like I think I know what to do and what I need to do, but I don't know what to expect of the new people I'm working with. And it could go a different way. And I don't know, just sort of like talking it
Yeah,
through might be helpful. I don't know.
especially if you're in this time of expansion, you're bringing in a lot of new folks, myself included. You're going to have a lot of people going, where can I help? What are we trying to do? What ways are we limited?
Mm,
And just all people from all different types of lives,
yeah,
especially
Yes.
as the actions of the regime affect more and
Oh,
more people.
God.
exactly. Yeah, people that were much safer a couple of years ago are suddenly not so safe and are scared about it. And it's reasonable to be. It's scary times.
Rightfully so, correct.
Yes, and I just am blunt about it. Like, I mean, obviously, I have lots of been doing global organizing for decades and decades, but there's definitely a part of it in this opportunity and the family, that I have in Europe that, just going to check things out and saying, like, what would it mean if things got worse here, and actually like going to other places. Like my grandparents had to flee Spain because of Franco, and they were targeted and
Right.
tried to be killed and assassinated. So it was like, it was just it's a crazy time for sure, and people should take it seriously. I personally am all about just like what is actually verifiable, as opposed to all this hypothetical just fear mongering. So I don't
Yeah.
think we're to the point yet where people should be like screaming and running to the trees, but we do need to be prepared for any possibility. You want to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. In the context of just getting things organized here at GSUS, you know, the main question I have for you, Ox, is if you're in touch with Dalian and if things are moving forward with Dalian to schedule and coordinate the vetting session. It's like an hour session, so I think that's pretty much all you would need to do. I've given you basically all of the permissions in the Discord that I'm able to do, so I don't know what else you would need there. But anyways, it's just a matter of just slowly getting to understand things and obviously building our team in California and seeing how our team evolves, or at least Northern California. And today will be our first meeting, so it'll be a new thing for you and all of us, right? So it's all new for all of us. And I
Okay.
really agree with what you're saying. We kind of have to step back as people who've been involved for a little bit longer, and sort of kind of ground and reconnect with all of the new folks as well. So that's all very, very interesting. As far as the conflict situation, my main
Yeah.
question there is, are we following the official, conflict resolution for GSUS? I mean, that was one of the things when I first got involved in GSUS and I'm reading all the rules. I'm like, okay, 90% of these rules are like conflict resolution, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but it's also great because really I see all of our solutions for addressing global catastrophe and all of the crises, from the environment to just like raping and pillaging things, and just our economic models that only the billionaire class and all the massive corruption that we have. I mean, just go on and on and on. It really comes down to conflict resolution and addressing contention and problems and issues, because if we can't address the issues within our own communities, we're never going to be able to address the bigger issues. Like, everything comes down to conflicts and some sort of issue somewhere. So for me, understanding the model of conflict resolution within GSUS and evaluating it and whether or not it works or what could be improved is extremely important. And I do believe we have that.
Yeah, where is it? I'm looking right now to see if it's what we were doing like organically or how to adjust it.
So my understanding is that it is called the Code of Conduct. So there's
Okay, I'll
some
search code of
server rules
conduct.
here. Here we go. GSUS Code of Conduct. So I'm going to put this into the notes
Thank
and
you.
kind of and also link it in here to our chat in Discord. And then let's open it up, see what it looks like. So I mean, I have definitely read and gone through this, but what I haven't done is actually experienced it. So one of the things that's important about rules and processes is that when something comes up, it should kind of like read like a manual. Like, it should be actually useful. Like you can actually
Mm-hmm.
implement it, right? So here we go. Guidance for de-escalation and conflict resolution, right? So we have principles, and behaviors that they don't want, principles and behaviors that they do want, and values. And then you go into the guidance for de-escalation and conflict resolution. So I'm just going to start copying some of this. Let's just go through this part to start with. So I'll copy some of this in here. So let's take a look. This is definitely really, really interesting. And as things evolve, the more success you have, in my experience, the more contention and conflict there is, which is weird, but that just seems to be how things have experienced in my life. Like nothing's happening, everything's terrible, you know, no money, no nothing, not successful. Everyone's like, whatever, I'm busy with my life. But then you start getting successful, you start actually achieving things, and suddenly everyone's like, oh, I'm paying attention to this now, and oh, I want a piece of that, and oh, now everything's a huge, massive contention.
Now we have to change it. Yeah.
So let's see what it says. If you have an issue with a particular person, try being the bigger person. If need be, set boundaries. You may both be able to continue contributing in ways, you know, we all must meet in the bigger picture and da-da-da. Ask others to explain how they feel. Representation is important when trying to regulate emotions during conflicts, misunderstandings. Whenever possible, involve moderator, admin, folks. That's done with our check-ins. We're on our check-ins. We're good. So now we're into rounds. So once everything calm and collected, then do a call consisting of the admin and facilitator and both individuals involved. So basically the bottom line here is that you try to address and communicate as the bigger person. Then you get moderators and facilitators involved. Then you kind of wait and calm things down. And then you schedule to address in a call with the moderator, right? In a call with a moderator. So it's not very well laid out as far as this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So I kind of would actually evolve this to be a little bit more like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of thing. But where do you think you're at in the process? And let's see if there's anything else today.
I don't really know, because I didn't have a conflict with an individual. I took issue with how things were being done. And I said, this is problems that I see, and here are some solutions that I can think of, and I'm willing to, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly this, it doesn't have to be my way, it just can't be what's going on, you know, this is a problem, and we should do something about it. And
wonderful. Well, that's totally
you
different.
know, and then so then what happened was, like, I was I guess too mean about it. And but I only in my opinion, I only got abrupt, I'll say, snappy, whatever, when my concerns were redirected and ignored like 6 times. And then I made it louder, and then it got taken seriously. But then we were focused on how I got louder and not the problem. And I honestly, yes, I was frustrated that I wasn't being heard. Yes, my feelings were hurt. But that is so much less of a concern to me than the problematic things that were happening in the community. At this point, I feel like we've gotten to a place where everyone agrees that what happened was a problem, but they're still mad that I mentioned it. And I got told, do you think you're the only one that can see problems? And I was like, I'm the only one talking about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, so
I don't know, right? I don't know how to respond to that, right? Yes. I feel like I was really shamed for mentioning problems to the organizers. Not I did eventually make a big public post about it, and then they started addressing the problems I was bringing up. But when I brought up the problems to them directly, I got told not to, and then I got told to do it somewhere else, and then I did it there and got told to do it another place.
Yeah.
But this is not. Don't do this in the Signal chat. Put it here.
Yes.
And then I was doing that, and then I guess there was a glitch that made me then lose permissions to the Proton document we were all working on, where I was writing my complaint. It glitched, I guess. Convenient timing, glitch, lost permissions. And I thought it was on purpose. And I went to the Signal and I said, "Did you really just remove my permissions? This is ridiculous." And I logged out for the day. But then when we came back to try and fix the problems, like address the thing that happened, to me, the thing that happened is still like the initial problem. But to them, what the problem was me jumping to the conclusion that they removed my permissions. But that was like the last thing for me. You know what I mean? After a series of unreasonable things. So, you know, yeah, I guess I did jump to a conclusion. Okay, it was a glitch. I'll suspend disbelief, even though that sounds like BS to me. But it doesn't matter. That is not the issue. My feelings aren't the issue. Like I feel feelings. They're real, and I'm validating them, and I can deal with that in therapy, or after the bigger problem is dealt with, we can, you know, say I'm sorry. But the I'm sorry isn't going to fix the reason I started talking about problems.
Yes.
And I only got like frustration in my tone because I was being redirected and ignored.
Yes.
Over and over.
So
I think now I think I made enough of a scene that they're taking it seriously. But I don't like that I had to make a scene, and now they're mad that I made a scene. Which I get it, but like you weren't I didn't feel like I have a better avenue to address problems without making a scene, because I did try.
Yes. So
And the scene, to be clear, the scene was in the public Discord of the Massachusetts chapter, tagging Dalian and bringing mod help and explaining everything that I tried to do independently. So I guess that's where we are. Like, I guess I did try to be the bigger person, try to resolve it independently, and then bring in a mod and catch them up on my side of it. So I guess that's where we are. It feels crazy. Like, I'm so mad, but my anger will go away if the problem is addressed. I don't even need an apology. That's not where I'm at, you know?
Yes. So, a couple things here. One, the fact that it's happening at all actually means that things are progressing, right? So bringing it up, talking about it actually is a good thing, and having things documented and understood, all those things are good thing and perfectly fine. Any organization that doesn't have issues going on is just not doing anything, you know? So as far as addressing contention, I always see that there's two very, 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 very different things. One is issues with policies and, you know, processes, right? And then the other is contention with, you know, basically experience, feelings, you know, and you know, communication, right? So it's like, contention is not solvable and will never be solvable.
Right.
Issues are very solvable.
Those two people need to, like, can either forgive each other or not.
Yeah. But it's like
the community will go on.
Exactly. It's like the issues can always be solved. Understanding the policies, improving the processes, you know, figuring things out together, and it's professionally, right? And addressing the professional side of it. Typically, the way you solve contention is completely the opposite, right? So the way you solve contention is what I would call being heard, right? Being heard is the foundation to call it, because it's not actually listening, right? You don't necessarily need to feel like someone's listening to you. You need to feel like what you're saying is being heard by the other person, because once you get tension and once you're emotional, you become basically like a mirror. Just everything bounces off of you. You don't hear anything. Because you're spinning in your own head, you know? And it's very difficult to communicate at that point. So typically what we do in a lot of our conflict evolution models is we do non-violent communication, and educations about non-violent communication is one of the most amazing things in my life. And it just comes down to 4 simple things that you can use everywhere in your life. One is I statements, right? So I statements are very, very important. 2 is I statements, as opposed to you blah 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 did this, and you blah blah blah, and then you're pointing and attacking. So it's violent communications. Whereas when you say I statements, you're reflecting back on yourself, so it's non-attackatory. The other one is observations instead of opinions. So you would try to slow down and say, okay, this is what I observed happen, and you try to observe it neutrally and document it neutrally instead of saying like, I think that you were, a dick or a butthead or blah blah blah, because like your opinion about what they did, but what did they actually do that made you have that opinion, right? So you try to think about the actual observation. The next step would be requests, right? What exactly are you requesting, or the other person requesting? Sometimes there isn't a request. And then the last part is repetition. Repetition. So the repetition is basically, repeating, like if someone says something, instead of responding to them, you repeat back and you say, is this what you just said, to make sure I understand it properly? And then you repeat back what you heard them say, which actually can help slow things down and calm things down. So anyways, this is just a good thing to go through overall. But I want to say one more thing, but I'll stop for a second because I'm sure, or I could just say it right now real quick. But
I have a response, but say.
Okay, so the last thing that I want to say, when this is actually towards access, is understanding that in GSUS, especially at the national level, myself and many other people have felt a lot of issues regarding the and I put this in our potential topics, like that are the clarity on structure, decision-making processes, evaluation, sociocracy, and governance. All of this is just very, very odd. When an issue comes up and there's a policy or there is something that should be changed, and you bring things up, the typical repetitive, like the classic repetition that I like to say is just like, oh, just look at the welcome packet. And the number of times I have been told to look at the welcome packet where obviously the answer is not there,
Right.
it's endless, like 100 times. And hearing everyone else's frustrations, where it's just like this endless frustration of cycles of like, okay, this person has this wonderful proposal, let's address it, let's vote no on it, but it's just never addressed. No one ever votes no on it. If you can't vote no, then you can't vote yes, and there's just no clarity on governance, decision-making, sociocracy. Where are things evaluated? When do things get evaluated? And how do you improve? And so the answer that I have got overall is that we need to focus on the chapters. So now if we're focusing on the chapters in Massachusetts, and then you have the same problem, then what do you do, right? So anyway, I just wanted to mention that in terms of access, that we do have an ongoing, issues within the whole structure, and understanding the process for addressing policy and issues within the organization itself.
You're trying to build an organization, as it goes, and that comes with challenges. I get it for sure.
Yeah, there's trial and error sections, and what works for us may or may not work for the next group. So we're going to have multiple models that we can kind of make plug and play, that people can have access to, and in a resource distribution system that makes sense. You can search. There are a lot of steps to the whole process, and I'm working on a wiki that's got like very little information on it so far, but the idea is to have a lot of our resources, like the conflict resolution, like all this, sort of linkable, searchable, interlinked, and easier to go through. I think that'll help a lot. I also recently wrote for the main problem that my personal conflict started with. I wrote like a flow for meetings, because we started having meetings, and there was a problem the most recent meeting where like a lot of new people showed up, and the people that were there were not ready to like bring in new people, and were frustrated that they like couldn't do their meeting agenda items because the people that were present couldn't vote on them because they didn't have the context. There was just, things were kind of out of order, and no one knew what to do about it. I did speak up and try to do like a little brief info section about what this was so we could get to it, but they didn't know me yet, and there wasn't that community trust established. Right. And they kind of shut me down. It felt like I was not helping, but I stopped. I didn't want to fight, especially not in the moment. Like, whatever happens to me, we can deal with tomorrow. But then they went around and were trying to like ask people their opinions on policy stuff, and every new person was like, I can't give an opinion on that. I don't know what you're talking about. And eventually I was asked to give that information, and I did so, and then I was interrupted again. and people were still confused, and then no one could like decide what to do from there.
Right.
And it was
Can I
really,
break in? Can I break
yeah,
in? Yeah.
yeah.
So it sounds like I'm coming into the same situation. It sounds like Jay came into the same situation. It sounds like this is a common experience for a lot of people, and probably going to continue to be so as more and more people come in and are kind of like, my landing was kind of the same way, where I'm like, I want there to be more information that I know that people are like, yeah, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're about, and these are the things that you can do directly. And unfortunately, it appears that since we're trying to grow in such an organic way and so fast in response to what's going on, it's going to be a constant thing where we are all going to have to be kind of the facilitators and the conflict managers, and able to, just reach out to one another one on one and say, hey, it's okay, let's figure this out.
This is I just dropped the Proton. If you want to look at what I put together as a solution, I think it's pretty comprehensive.
On my screen right now.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You don't have to look at it right now. You can save it for later if you're interested. No pressure. But it would have solved this conflict, this hiccup, and so yeah, to respond back to what you were saying earlier, Jay, I feel like a lot of those tools were attempted. I asked for specifics this morning when I talked to one of the organizers, who said that like I was speaking too aggressively, and I was thinking about that with the nonviolent language, and I asked for specifics, and she brought up the after I got after the permission glitch, and I did say, what the fuck, who took away my permissions, or whatever, I forget exactly the words, but it was, yeah, sure, an accusation, or at least a question of an accusation, right? Did this happen? And people took offense to that, which I guess I understand. I also understand why I felt that was intentional, because the context, suggested that I was being silenced, and then I lost my permissions after repeatedly being told to stop talking. But if it was a glitch, I did, I officially apologized for jumping to that conclusion.
Yeah, apologizing is so important because it just helps calm things down, and it's like we even have an apology policy in our like decentralized co-op model, like where it's just like sometimes that's just what is needed, so that's great that you did that. And there's always
I certainly don't want to accuse someone of something they didn't do, and I do know that sucks to hear, that people don't trust you. I get it, but the trust was already losing, like being drained, because I wasn't, people didn't want to talk about what had happened at the meeting, and I wasn't pointing fingers, I wasn't casting blame, I wasn't saying, oh my god, you suck as coordinators. I was saying, here's what I think would help next time, because that was not we alienated people, and I think we need to do better than that, But I don't think I was mean. It was very observation. Here's what happened. Here's what I think what is a problem. And here's what I think we can do in the future to fix it. And I wasn't like, this person did this, and it wasn't like that. But when I asked for more specifics, like, okay, I concede the permissions loss probably was a glitch. Sorry, I said that. Was there anything else? Everything else that was brought up was questions I asked, including like, as I was in the Signal chat trying to talk about it, they were saying like, this isn't what we use this for, or like put it in the agenda. I don't have the energy for this right now. But it's like, it's a group chat, like it was not a one-on-one conversation. So to me, someone else having the energy just means they need to put their phone down. And while it's fresh in my mind, I can put my words down and they can look at it tomorrow. That seems reasonable to me. And I'm autistic. So I said, after several things that were, the undertone was, please stop talking, right? Or like, don't do this here. I said, I'm autistic. Can someone tell me what the unspoken expectation is? Are you asking me to stop talking to you? Or are you asking me, is there a specific place I should talk about this? Or what are you saying? Like, I gave some examples, but the whole thing was a question. And they really didn't like that. And then they explained what they meant, like in the phone call this morning, that person explained what they meant. And the summary to me was, yes, we wanted you to stop talking. It was just mean for you to say it out loud. That's how I interpreted it. They said it was a lot longer than that. It was a very long lecture about how, you know, all the reasons to stop talking, but without saying the phrase "stop talking." You know.
The polite, politically correct issues coming up too. So, I mean, there's so many things going on here, and I'm sure the list is just the tip of the iceberg in so many ways. But there's the core issues themselves. There's the contention around the issues. Then you have all the problems with the decision-making processes and sociocracy and evaluation. I think I would add two additional things. One is that there is a huge difference between conflict evolution or resolution and contention between two people or a small group, and facilitation in a moment. Like when you're in a meeting with, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, like, and you are the facilitator and you're trying to facilitate the group working together, that is a whole different situation. And in that moment, when the seconds are ticking away, the tools that are available to the group and to the facilitator are completely different than addressing contention and issues over asynchronously or over time within an organization, right? So understanding facilitation skills and how to best work with groupthink and collaborating as a group, and whether splitting up or separating or having, I mean, there's so many nuances there that are, impossible to be perfect in any one instance, which is why rotation is really good, rotating facilitators, so that at different meetings you have different people that kind of have different ways of working as a group. And then the other one, as I was going to note, is accessibility, which is one of the things we're talking about in the strategy team, and understanding how, I mean, I myself am very dyslexic and neurodiverse, and I also have people sometimes tell me that I might have minor autism things going on, but in the context of accessibility, having clear processes, clear guidelines, clear steps are very important, and we really don't have that really well done, which is why the strategy team is trying to address that, including with Bird and other people. So that is super essential. And if I can just take a moment to vent myself, I had an interesting interaction this week in the SoCal server, where, like, SoCal is a little bit more established than NorCal, and they have multiple vetted facilitators, and they're a little bit bigger, and they're more connected to, I mean, a lot of things happen in SoCal, first than NorCal. So the 5051 has connected to the Southern California people. And I got banned by 5051 for some BS reasons, specifically this group, and inviting one single person from 5051 to a recording session, and they banned me. And we were adults consenting to being recorded, and they banned me. And it was outrageous. Anyways, if I break the rules, I break the rules. But I didn't break the rule. They told me that it was okay to do that, and I did it, and then they banned me anyways, right? So if that was against the rule, then it's fine. I never would have done it to begin with. Anyway, so these 5051 organizers that actually know and have known about and have communicated are now involved in GSUS because they're very interested in working with us, especially for the May Day. And so everything went down, and it was like 2 days of just like intense, like overwhelming, like, why are you making me relive this again, and and explaining everything to them, and what is the even point with this? And then finally they came back, and the very nice lady was like, I really do want to help, and I'm thankful, and someone even apologized, and they were just like, these are the next steps, and this is what we're doing. And I was like, oh my god, thank you so much for clarifying everything to me. And everything just like went down like 10 notches, and I was like, and I still have no idea if I ever will be back in 5051 or I'll be banned forever, but I don't care, because at least they're attempting to communicate in a way of like understanding what went wrong and how can be improved. And I even told them, like, we can just work I could just help as a consultant and not come to the California meeting. Anyways, it was very, very frustrating at first, and I almost like ripped my hair out. I just like was going insane. And then finally they came back with some actual professional information and like got a little bit more grounded in terms of some reality. and we started doing some statements and apologizing. It was a really interesting process to go through, and I never even thought it would ever happen, you know? So it's just, I didn't think I was ever going to talk to a 5051 person again, with the fact that the organizers are coming into GSUS and actually specifically wanting to address conflict and issues to improve 5051's processes is mind blowing. And not only is it mind blowing, we can learn from that into ourselves. Like how does this relate in terms of going in and understanding, okay, these are the processes we're actually trying to document the issues and then evaluating them and trying to improve, even when sometimes the actual conflicts happened months ago. So I think we could learn a little from that as well, because it's very professional and very, you know, impressive, if that makes sense. So anyways, I just wanted to vent a little bit and tell my story of the week. Oh my goodness. Check. Water. But we need to find solutions. We need to find solutions on how best to address problems. It looks like we lost Story. So I'll send a message there. But are you still here?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'm still here.
Cool, we're still here. Great. So yeah, so we definitely need to find a lot of solutions. I think for me, we talk a lot about sociocracy in GSUS, but we do very little actual implementation of sociocracy. And so for me, the core values that are part of that is like there's evaluation. I mean, I love the transparency and the accountability parts, which for me are all about recording and documenting and all that part, which is one of the reasons why I push this stuff, because I'm big time in sociocracy. And then the other reason is that there is a part on evaluation and just understanding the principles of doing our best to constantly be evolving and constantly be improving and listening and hearing things and prioritizing and actually improving in a scientific process like sociocracy, right? So that I think would be amazing to bring into the California, or at least the Northern California group, and we'll see what people want to do between Northern California and California. Like, even though GSUS has set up the 2-server structure for California, there's only one reason that happened. And the reason is because over 20,000 people signed up on the strike card for California, right? So they broke up the entire country based on groups of 10,000 people. So
Okay.
if there was 3 or 4 states in a region that together had 10,000 people, like the Arizona, Utah, Nevada chapter, they put them all in one server for 3 states, because there was about 10,000 people between those 3 states. So for California, we had over 20,000 people for one state, so they broke it into 2, south and north, for California. But there's no requirement in our decentralized organizing model that we are forced to work as separate states or separate chapters, right? We can collaborate as a single state if we want to.
Well, plus you can have, if the way Discord, you can just add a new server and make a new server when you need a new division.
True. Yes,
If one
and we
server
certainly
gets too busy,
and we certainly have that for California, right? So I basically made
Right.
California servers again. I mean, I had a California server, public and private, right? Because I always do everything public, everything private, and then split the 2 up, and that was that was the Northern California and Southern California version, you know. So oh, look, Story's back. You made it. Excellent. Cool.
Sorry about that. My phone died. Yeah, I know that 5051 thing going down, and like they didn't even have to ban you. They could have literally said, "We changed our mind. Like, I know you got permission to do that. Don't do that again."
Exactly.
And you'd have been like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Like, what
Okay.
the fuck?
What the fuck? Exactly. They could have easily done that and not made it and blown it up to be this huge thing. We're talking about one single person that came and brought one other person from 51. So it's 2 people maximum, and there was really one person that I personally invited, right? And it was like, it blew up to this huge thing that involved a national organization where there's like 5 million people involved. You know, it's like, what is going on? Like, how does that even happen?
Also,
I think
Also-
that's why it blew up, though, and I think that's probably why it took so long for you to hear back on it, because once you do have the donors and the corporate involvement and the legal landscape and the lawyers to maneuver, that stuff gets really dicey, especially if you're treating people, one way for doing one thing. Individual gaming servers on Discord are usually a bunch of friends that all get along and can kind of write their own rules. But once you're engaged on a national level, that legal landscape is much different.
Yes,
which is
totally.
probably why it took so long to get back to you on that.
Well, I mean, but I mean, it took them literally. Okay, I don't want to get into all the details here, but why not? It's fun,
Sure.
right? So basically, we started the session just like we started today. By the time the session was over, I was already banned from 5051. So basically, the entire time that they were communicating about how horrible this was, they could have just clicked the link, come on the session, and talk to us as human beings. But they didn't. Instead, they purposely went out of their way to organize a vote to ban me because 5 of us were on a call that was being recorded, right? So it's like, for me, the bottom line question, like if we're talking about, diversity and specifically in my perspective, discrimination, right? Discriminating against people who want to record and use like 21st century technology to record and broadcast versus using 21st century technology to have the most secure, private, secret communications possible.
Yeah.
You should be able to do
Yeah.
both. And so if people on 5051 server can say, hey, let's talk, and they click on a button or they go to the group chat in the Discord, and they go to Jitsi and it's a private, secure communication. If they're allowed to do that, to not allow a group of people to come together and record is discriminatory, in my opinion. Like there's no difference, right? A group of people come together and they have a private communication. A group of people come together and they decide to record. Who can tell a group of adults that they're not allowed to record if everybody consents to the recording? So for me, that is a foundational rights issue. Yes, is it dangerous to record and broadcast yourself when you're working in movements that are doing the kind of things that we're doing? Absolutely. Is it a form of protest? Yes. It's the same as protesting. When you go and you protest publicly, it's dangerous. That's why a lot of people wear
Also-
masks when they protest,
Also, does this mean that no one in 5051 has ever talked about 5051 in a TikTok live or any
unless-
recorded platform?
Unless they are a quote approved official press representative. So they have an official position within 5051 that is an approved like auditory speaker. Everybody else is only allowed to have a sign.
Wow.
Or a body, right? Which for me is just like
Interesting.
outrageous, the idea of that. But the problem is that that's not really true. That's just the way that they implement it. Under the actual written policies, and this is why they actually apologized to me in the GSUS chat this week. They actually apologized to me. I was jaw dropped that 5051 apologized to me, or at least one of the representatives. And they apologized because they read through the rules and they were like, oh, well, actually, you're right. There's nothing in any of our rules that say that no one's allowed to record with consent. And so the one person who did read through it and was trying to improve their rules actually said that they felt that I was wrongly, which is what I've been saying the whole time, that there is no rule against recording. Obviously, it's dangerous and it's certainly something that you have to do very, very carefully. But technically, they never told anyone that you can't do it. In fact, people can. I mean, millions and millions of people, 4,990,000 people recorded and took pictures at all of the events, right? But if you're an organizer and you want to dedicate your life to this, you have no rights. But the other 4,990,000 people can do whatever they want. It's very weird, right?
It is. Yeah. But I'm just saying that's why how it played out behind the scenes. It probably took a month because you probably had an advocate that was looking through the rules, going like, is he right about this? And looking, then came back to their meetings saying, hey, this guy's right. Why don't we go apologize?
Yeah, but I don't think that's what happened at all. I mean, I think that they are mind blown that I'm even involved in GSU. They had no idea I was involved in GSUS. They had no idea whatsoever. I never announced it or did. I mean, maybe in my introduction a little bit, but that was not what I presented to them. So they found me in GSUS and I've told them about it, and it was a big thing. So they knew exactly who I was because of that. But I don't think they actually knew. They didn't come to GSUS specifically to talk to me in any way whatsoever. They were just coming to just create a space that was like, hey, yeah, we want to create a venting space and communicate with GSUS in some way. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll vent, And they were like, oh, that's you, So it was like, it was an interesting relationship moment, if that makes sense. And then, and so from there, they're like, okay, well, maybe we should communicate and address this more and get more information. They had lots of questions for me, and then I kind of felt like I was being, interrogated. Anyways, I would only bring this up because, making a little bit of relationship with Story that I had a bit of an intense experience this week as well, and they're both kind of related in that same sort of conflict way.
Yeah.
But the difference is that I feel like 5051 has a process and GSUS does not have a process, right? We do not have a clear process of how to address complicated conflictatory and issue, even the concept of separating issues from contention, which is a core principle of any sort of functional conflict resolution. It does not seem to be functional in GSUS because there's no way to address issues already, right? It's like, how do you address an issue within GSUS? And basically, what I'm being told is that nothing happens at the national level, it all happens at the local level. So we have the power to create and focus on, for example, Northern California chapter and the California chapter and the Massachusetts chapter and build the vision of GSUS that we want to see. The more that we can create our own organization and our own vision of what GSUS should look like in our state chapter, then people can learn through experience. This is how California is doing it. Everyone should do it this way. Does that sort of make sense?
Right.
I think
So
that's the best.
it sounds like one of the things we could benefit from is kind of a codification of conflict resolution, how to raise the flag.
I would love
moderators involved.
Can I participate? Can we do this like Massachusetts and California and start there, and any other states that want to opt in can join us as we go and just like start building this, because I have a lot of ideas and also need this help. And I also really want to, like, my main thought through a lot of this has been, what happens when the next person this happens to isn't as much of an asshole as I am? Like, I'm a pain in the ass. I have been arguing and pushing my case for days. Not everyone's going to do that. Most people are just going to leave.
Oh, exactly. Most people, when we say most people, we mean like of the 20,000 people in the Discord server, we're talking like 90% of them, right? Very, very few people. I see so many people I connect with, and they are gone. Like,
I want to make a chapter or whatever, a group for conflict and problem addressing, that at the very least documents that this was a problem, this is a solution proposal, this is who we told about it, if something doesn't happen, that's who dropped the ball. Let's fucking go. Let's put some accountability on people. I am not against a little pressure. I also think as long as we stay to the fundamentals of like, decentralization means self-governance of your group. Like, I don't actually care what the solution is, as long as it meets the qualifications of fixing the problem and being, community recognized as the choice that everyone feels is the right way to go. Right? It needs to be somewhat democratic, or at least like consented to and agreed upon by people that have like thought about it and talked about it. And not just like one person making all that decisions for everyone, right? And there's ways it can go. I don't know. I certainly don't want it to be like the secret police. Like, there's no punishment. That's not ever the goal, right? Yeah. I'm a restorative justice person. I think that we just need to find the problems and fix them. And like you said, make sure people feel heard. Make sure that no one's just being like ignored. And like, some problems is an ego problem. Some problems is a therapist problem. Some problems is not everyone has the same priorities as you, and you need to accept that, right? Sometimes that is the solution. But other times, like, there are ways to empower people. So it's like, if you're passionate about I don't know, pick a cause, right? Food distribution, right? If I am super into food distribution and my local chapter has that on a lower priority, and I feel that's ridiculous, rather than fighting my whole community, I feel like GSUS's response should be like, let's put me in touch with some food distribution mutual aids, and then I can be the GSUS bridge between the two. Like, there's always a fucking solution. And I feel like having a team whose job...
Let's calm the language down. I mean, we're going to have people from all walks of life, and I mean,
yeah. So
I think it's a little more
I will do my best to channel my swearing away. I also think that if we make a documentary, we'll probably have some editing power, and I apologize for all the bleeping. For the record.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry
Cool.
about that. I mean, I do know this. It's all adults, right?
Yes, I do have a response though. A couple things. So the first one is that the welcome session's about to start in 5 minutes. So Oxas, if you're interested in going to that and you haven't been, that you might want to consider doing that. We're going to kind of review the same information during the NorCal breakout as well. But it's just good to know that that's happening in the national GSUS. As far as the core of all of this, like, I think I want to give the decentralized version, which is the complicated, holographic, like multifaceted, like that's what I do best, right? Kind of thing. But before we go into that, let's just think about the simple, very, very simple version. And the best thing that we can do is to review all the policies and processes and systems within the entirety of GSUS. So for example, let's just bring up the one that we just mentioned right the second. In our decentralized cooperative model, well, of course, we're not big, we're not functional, or whatever, but we have policies. In those policies, we have a professional code of conduct. In our professional code of conduct, our professional communications code. So specifically about our communications, we do list in there that swearing and bad words is on our bad list, and that we encourage people, because we're multicultural and we don't know how words affect other people, that we try to use words that are culturally appropriate throughout all cultures across the world, right? So then it's just like reminding people to do that. But we have in our fine print that there are 2 places where people are allowed to be themselves, because some people just use swear words in their communication, and there's 2 very, very important places where they're allowed to do it. And one is in a contentious situation session where you are presenting your perspective, and you just need to be honest and truthful. And sometimes people need to swear to be able to be themselves, because if they're not able to talk and be themselves in a situation where they need to express their point of view, then they might be closing off their ability to communicate as a human being. And we also have an experiential session that's just open to anything, which we would allow people to swear there too. So the point is that what are the systems, what are the policies, what are the processes within GSUS that are known? I have started this process, and I have this very interesting document that I think is really cool. And it is basically a decisions evaluation review of GSUS. So I went to all the trouble, and I'll put this in the notes here, I'll link it, to basically write down every single decision I could find for GSUS ever. And basically document it, and then start voting on them and evaluating them. Okay, well, what of the decisions that have been made in GSUS, which there's not a lot of them, do we agree with what's happened, right? And so so that's the simple version. All right, so if there are any questions about the simple version, because I would love to do that. We could do that for a couple more weeks, and if that's all we did with this transparent group is just document and evaluate all existing policies and procedures and for GSUS to understand where we are now, that would be such a huge tool to evolve and go from there. It would be amazing. And it's kind of like a first step, a first evaluation assessment of everything that currently exists, so we understand where the issues reside and where the problems and where the gaps and the holes are. So I'll stop there, but then the next thing I would go to is, okay, what does decentralized, holographic, and empowerment movement organizing allow us to do? And it's very exciting, and I have lots of ideas. Would love to answer your question about actually starting something with some chapters that are interested in doing it. But before I go into that, I just want to see if there's interest in just the evaluation of the existing policies. And Oxus, if you wanted to get going, you can do that too. And I have about 15 more minutes before I gotta get going, because I have the West Coast session.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to do that. Yes, I'm happy to use the rest of the time to talk about in this session, but also in coming sessions.
Yeah.
to talk about the decisions that have been made so far, and what policies we have in place. And yeah, I would love to go into this more detailed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a core principle of sociocracy, right? So
Yeah.
I love just evaluating and understanding sociocracy. And if we ever want to go more into sociocracy, it's so cool. It's like it's such a like we literally don't even hit the tip of the iceberg. We graze over the iceberg and we're like, yeah, sociocracy is cool, and then it like echoes, sociocracy is so good. But we don't actually dive into the iceberg of sociocracy, which is infinite.
Oh,
It's
I actually
amazing.
need to dive into that by Wednesday. So if we don't get there today, I really need
Okay,
to explore
well
that.
let me
But we should wrap this up to the best of our ability for the sake of the welcome meeting for Oxus, because I think the welcome meeting is the most informative,
yeah.
quickest way to get familiar with what GSUS is. Day does not have a lot of
So
time and does it every week,
every week,
and it
it's
is
amazing.
they are the most amazing
Yeah.
presenter, and the information that they cover in such a quick amount of time is such amazingly accessible and understandable. Like, it's so good. You should go, and I will be there
So
when
Oxus,
you leave. I will come for the discussion part, which is
yeah.
the second half.
So Oxus, what I would encourage you to do is to go to the session, the welcome session, and the reason is because at the beginning at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, at the beginning of the NorCal breakout, if we have enough people and everything, the first 50 minutes. So typically Day and Dalian do a 30-minute version of kind of like welcome packet review and going through all the things. We basically want to take that entire thing and maybe condense it into a 15-minute version for the Northern California folks that join for the first time. So if you could go there and learn what Day does and just kind of get a feeling of it and understanding it, then we're basically, me and you together can repeat that for the Northern California group, at least for the first 15 minutes. Okay, that sound good?
Sounds good.
Nice. And also they always do like an intro question, and we could just copy that intro question. So write down that intro question, and then we can copy that and use that for our NorCal as well. Yeah, for the beginning of the discussion. Yes.
I'll do what I can.
Perfect. And so do you know where that is? That is in the you just go to the main National General Strike, and you just go to the bottom into the group meeting. Yes, and there's already a group in there. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. And then me and Story are just going to go over the more complicated holographic.
No worries. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and jet.
Sweet. Thanks. All right.
Have fun.
Awesome. Perfect. Good call, Story. Like, genius. All right. And I'm so excited about Oxus because he's thinking about stepping up and being the vetted facilitator for California, and I'm about to bounce California. So it's just like, this is awesome. All right. So let me go into the decentralized holographic stuff, and then if we have time, let's do some fun with sociocracy, because sociocracy is so much fun, and I can give you all the basics. So the first thing, understanding of the decentralized holographic empowerment movement is on the national level, but there's and then there's, like you're talking about, let's call it the spoke levels. You have the spoke level from the national to all of the chapters, okay? And then there's that actual individual chapter level, okay? So on the national level, you have the teams. So there's the strategy team, the community, the community wellness. Oh my God, all the teams. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So all of those teams, and one of the issues coming up in the strategy team is they don't report anywhere. There's no national circle where everybody reports to that's actually public, or not. That's basically an open session that everyone knows about, even though it's a private session, right? So there's a lot of secret sessions that go on. I call them secret sessions because for me, a public session is recorded. A private session is there's a public invitation to a private session that's not recorded. And then if the public doesn't know about it and no one knows about it, I would use that term secret session, right? All of which are perfectly fine. All sessions are fine. It doesn't matter what kind of session it is. It's just the vocabulary and the semantics. So the idea that we've already been discussing, and why don't I just go ahead and make sure that we put this. So this would be the quote, new organization in GSUS movement. So there's actually already a place where we discuss this particular concept. So, but it relates directly to what you were saying too. So as the teams, you could create what we call a general meeting. So it would be a national circle general meeting. That is a private meeting that everyone's invited to it, and all of the teams have representation to that meeting to make decisions, in essence at a national level that have affect all the teams. But if you create a new general national group that, for example, let's say the strategy team joins, right? So the strategy team would join this, other teams might not join it. And then the national group could create, for example, a new social media team, for example. So you could have the old social media team that decides not to join the new group, and then you could create a new social media team that works in terms of the scope and the influence of the new general meeting that has a scope out into this team on the national level for because there could be multiple social media accounts at the national level, right? So
Yeah.
and the new general meeting team could create its own website. So I've actually had discussions with Day, and this is some of the stuff that just blew my mind. I mean, GSUS is so special in that it's a decentralized organizing. And the person who originally set this all up that Day learned from, Day said to me that they said that eventually there should be multiple websites, right? And I've already made a website at the global level, right, which is the generalstrike.global, right? And so basically, with that put aside, if you think about that in the context of the spokes level with the chapters, different chapters could agree to connect into a different national group model that would prioritize, for example, what you're talking about, conflict resolution and processes and more clarity on accessibility and understanding for people, maybe a little bit less things on the secret level, right? But we don't want to break what's already working. So for example, I would say that the existing social media team, the existing things and all the stuff that's going on, and it's really behind the scenes, like people were saying in the strategy team, it could be as few as like a couple people who overseeing this massive operation with hundreds of thousands of people who are being influenced by the work that we're doing. And that's okay. If that group is separated out as its own little secret group and they continue to bring people in the decentralized model, the decentralized model should be able to create more, for example, public media and social media that is controlled by the national organization, right?
Yes.
Whereas you have the social media that currently exists, no one has any control over it, and that's okay because we don't want to break it, right? We don't want to take that away from people who are doing it well and potentially break it, but it would be beneficial to have another group that could be, okay, this actually represents all of the spoke levels of all the chapters that want to come together, and all these chapters have a social media that they control collectively, right? And then at the chapter level, you could do the same thing. So with all of that said, the only other thing I'll add is that one of the things that I am working on, if you just go to the website, right, and this is what this whole group is the General Strike public organizing. So my goal with 11 million people, we should be able to eventually have a group of people who want things to be publicly transparent and accountable to the public, right? Because this affects everybody. So in that context, the model that I use is you have everything that's public and everything that's private, so that people know when they click on a public server that they're getting involved in something that's recorded, documented, broadcast, put on social media. Everything that they do is not, there's no secrecy or no privacy to it at all. So in that context, it should be clear from the beginning they're not involved in a private group, so that it's very, very clear. So for me, it's all about having this whole model. But the problem is that very, very few people want to be in a public transparent group, which is why the direction I'm going is actually the coalition level, where we're trying to pull people from many different movements to make one single, basically multi-movement umbrella public organizing group to start with. And then that can branch into movements that have more interest in public accountability, because my goal is to create one single organization to start with. So actually the last thing I'll say, and I'll transfer it back over to you, is that creating a single group that does nothing but address conflict, I would actually recommend against that. And the reason is because like organizations, the foundation of organizations should be to address conflict. So if you are saying like, oh, it's okay if everyone doesn't address their conflict because we're going to create this new space that's going to address everyone's conflict for them. It's like, for me, that's a cop-out.
Yeah, that creates a vacuum.
It creates a vacuum and it creates, so it's like, oh, if you don't want to address the conflict and the contention in your organization, then we're going to show you how to do it right. We're going to create our own organization that does address the conflict. And then when people realize that that's better, they're going to flock to it. And then people will be like, oh, wow, that does work better. We should implement that or we're not going to exist anymore, So it's basically like, for me, the organization itself needs to be functional, and then the fundamental value on underlying its functionality is that it addresses issues and has clear processes, and that it's a fundamental core of the organization itself, because then that's much more accountable and functional, because otherwise it's just like
long-term sustainable too, and then you're not. Yeah, you're right. I agree 100%. You've changed my mind.
Yeah. So in some ways it's the same thing though, right? It's just like, okay, this is an
it's
organization.
just better.
Yeah.
It serves all. It hits all the same check boxes.
Yeah.
It's just better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the best way to do it though, in relationship to like what you're saying in GSUS itself, is if we build a coalition of chapters that are really interested in having these models, and the models have to be set up based on clear principles of process. I can't remember who it was. It might have been you who supports the score voting and the consensus, like building consensus, right? I don't know if it was you. It could have been someone else.
No, I have very little opinions about voting. And when the math on voting changes depending on how many people are voting and what the context is, and I could talk about like the best options depending on what the context is and how many people are voting.
Yeah, well,
but I think that I don't really have a favorite,
Yeah,
I think they all have their use except for like first past the post, which is ridiculous.
The worst. Yes. So yeah, for me, it's all about the multocracy, where basically you can look at different models of voting, and the goal is that all of them have the same outcome, where you have the same agreement, regardless of how the vote goes. So anyways, I think we're on the same page here, and I think the best way to start is just stepping back, getting a full documented list of all the existing policies and procedures and decisions that have been made, and then once you have that in our decentralized model, because I've been studying and building experimental decentralized models of organizing. This is why I do public transparent sessions, because for me, in my mind, decentralized audio must be publicly transparent. That whatever comes through my computer, or phone, I should be able to do whatever I want with, because it's decentralized. No one can control my experience. No one can control the audio that I'm hearing, because it's decentralized audio. Therefore, I can broadcast it. I can do whatever I want. So for me, in my mind, true decentralization means sessions and audio communication that is public and transparent, because otherwise someone controls it and it's no longer decentralized, right? So that is just why I think this way, right? Because I'm all about, so in the context of understanding decentralization, for example, with crypto, it's all about the term forking. And so we actually have created models of decentralized forking for organizations. And so the most important thing of an organization to be decentralized is the continuity of decision making and all the policy, everything that makes up that organization, minus the people in essence, of what it stands for and what it is. So then the forking would be the difference of the people. So you can actually take all of the decisions that were made up until a certain point, fork it, and then start evolving the decisions differently from the point at which you forked. But you can't fork something that doesn't exist. And that's the problem that we're in right now at GSUS, is there's no documentation of any decision making, of any continuity that is transparent. And so that would be the first step, is documenting everything. Then you would fork it and say, this is the new organization based on the trajectory of all the previous decisions that were made. And then you're able to start evaluating it and evolving it based on what you want to see. So anyway, so that's my little shindig, and that is a core value of social. Like, there's a lot of sociocracy in there too. The idea of evaluating decisions, evaluating, understanding things. Yeah, very cool.
I have been saying over and over, I don't care what the choice is. Let's just make a choice, and then we can change it if it doesn't work. And that's basically that's a TLDR, right? That's basically what you just said.
What's the TLDR stand for?
Oh, it's internet shorthand for too long didn't read. It just means a summary. It's a summary.
I'm genius at that. I always have too long to read. I have so much to way too much.
Did you look at the Proton link I dropped?
I did. I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on it if and when you have time to think about it or share them, or if you have them now, whatever. But
yes, and I'm gonna drop you this link if we have an extra 5 minutes here. Yeah. This link is the decision making option. So in the decision making options, I realized that more important than decision making is structure, and that's what we're talking about. How do you structurally just connect groups together that want to share certain values that might be different from other groups that are working together? So the decision making comes after the structure, because you don't have the structure of communications, you can't make decisions. So I kind of got focused on the chain of decision making because
Sure.
it's related to structure. But really, in GSUS and the whole thing, we're not ready for decision making yet. We are all about structure. Once you build the structure, do we want a general meeting that connects to different chapters and connects to different, teams? Is that the structure we want for our communication? Then we can talk about how to make decisions about it. But under 0.5 is the official sociocracy, which goes over the 7 core principles of sociocracy, which are absolutely fascinating. It also has the link to the training guide and all the official website information on sociocracy, which is mind-blowingly fascinating and amazing. So as far as answering your question on all of that, I'll put that in the notes as well and link that too. Okay? And that should get you everything that you want by Wednesday. Like if you have any questions, just shoot me a question on it. But as far as the information itself, it's all there. And just to really quickly, because it's just so cool, go over the principles. So the first principle is effectiveness. This, which means that basically you're focusing on your organizational objectives, not tangents. The second proposal is consent, building consensus and consenting to the people who are affected by a decision. The third principle is experimentation, revision, and constantly learning and addressing complexities, which is what we are talking about today. The next one is improvements, reviewing and continuously incrementally improving everything constantly, which is also what we're talking about today. Localization, empowering people who are affected by the decisions themselves, which also relates to consent. Transparency, which is what I'm all about when it comes to recording and documenting and providing information. And accountability, which is also what I'm all about when it comes to documenting and holding people accountable to the decisions they made in the past. So those are the 7 principles of sociocracy in terms of implementing it. So anyways, I thought you would like that as well.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like a lot of this is very intuitive to how I function in the world, and seeing it laid out this way just makes it possible to pursue it intentionally. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this.
It's really cool. And then going over the whole, the guide is like 100 pages, like it's like a rabbit hole, and you want to use it more like a manual, because you don't want to you don't really read it straight through. It's like, hey, what is the issue I'm trying to deal with? Okay, let's read this section. But
okay, so it's not,
yes.
Oh, it's not quite letting me click the link, but I can type it. I know how to spell sociocracy 3.0.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So anyways, all these things take time. I am all about setting up the global level of General Strike as well, which is 300 million people. Like, it's like the billionaire class does not exist in the United States. They exist everywhere across the world. Yes, we need the United States. Yeah. So it's good that we're setting up the United States first, but if they run from the United States and they want to go and screw other people up, we need to stop that as well, Yeah. So, anyways, I am all, and it also comes from decentralization. Decentralization, there could be no barrier to entry. Everybody is open and connected into it, because as soon as you have a barrier, it's no longer decentralized. So again, my mind just thinks of the science of decentralization. And so the very first thing when I saw this is like, oh, there's no global, like it's just automatic creating the global website and creating the global connection point for anyone who wants to get involved anywhere, because there should be no barrier. Right? So it has nothing really to do like, oh yeah, I want to work and organize 300 million people. That could take literally, who knows how much longer. Who knows how much longer it's going to take us to do this. But the point is that it has to exist, otherwise we're not decentralized. So
yeah.
Very, very cool.
I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the way you think and the sources you have and what I learned from you. And just, while we're still on the record, I just want to say, I do think the GSUS Massachusetts thing is going to be fine. I said multiple times, like, it's a mess right now, but I would rather have a mess than no meeting. Like, a messy meeting is great. Like, that's progress. Let's go. So, yeah, I fully agree. I feel confident we will resolve this.
Absolutely.
I know I can put my whatever, like, I don't have to like you to build community, right? We both want the same thing. We have the same values. I said to the organizer I talked to today, like, you're clearly like an intelligent and kind person, and I like you, but like we still have issues to resolve, and I'm not gonna not talk about it. Like, that's just not who I am,
Exactly. Like for me, I am a feather ruffler. And I will always be a feather ruffler, because
I'm a boat rocker.
Yeah, it's like if you're not seeing, for me, literally just doing a public session rocks people's boat and ruffles their feathers, literally just to record. And it's like, well, sorry, that's who I am. It's like I can't change who I am. That's my identity. That is my life mission. That's like what I do. and it's the foundation of decentralized audio. So it's like there's a scientific reason to do it as well. So yes, what is so cool about the Massachusetts situation though is that it shows the commitment and the excitement in the group. Like when things get messy and when things get it's also consciousness itself and communication are not linear. They are cyclical. And typically what happens, you have this crescendo, and the most important decisions happen when you have the most intensity. And then boom, it all clicks, and then everything sort of like, sometimes it involves a fallout and some people have to leave and other whatever, but eventually everything calms down and it's like improves, and it's like, oh, we hit another plateau, right? So
It
I
has
think
to get
overall
worse
it's a
to
good
get
thing.
better.
Yes,
Yeah.
it will get better,
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
it has to sometimes get worse to get better, right?
Yes.
Like
ooh,
if it's slightly uncomfortable forever, it could just stay that way. But if you start talking about it, now everyone's itching. So.
But I did think of a really, really great idea based on what you're saying. So as a conflict resolution and concept in terms of like separating conflict resolution from the organization, bad idea. But what would be a good idea is a simple project group. So we could call it like project mediator or something like that, where we have a group of people who are in essence qualified mediators and facilitators who have experience in conflict resolution, in mediation, so that when problems arise, people know where they can go to ask for help, right? Are those people going to be separating the conflict? No, but they would be, they're saying, okay, this is a list of people who are willing to step in and actually mediate between groups if the other existing mediators maybe don't have the skills or just getting access to more information on nonviolent communication and resources about mediating. I think that could be a great group. It wouldn't actually do anything separate. It would just send resources to where the problems within the existing organizations go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
yes, it does. Yeah.
What do you like?
That's great.
Do you like the name Project Mediator? Like, what should it be called? Or project?
Let me get back to you. I don't like Project Mediator. I don't know why. I
don't like it either. How about just resources?
But
like,
I'll think about it. I'll DM you or something.
Resources related to conflict mediation. How about that? Sound good? For getting started. No?
No.
All right. Well. How about for now we just call it, 648 blue. 648 blue, and then we'll get a name. That sound good?
What word? Say it again.
Just the number 648 blue, and then we'll get a name for it later.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Just so we can
I was gonna say like referee. I don't know.
648 blue referee.
Anyway.
Okay. Anyways, well, I always like to get things started immediately. Shall we do a quick checkout?
All right.
And then we're done?
Yes.
All right. So checkouts. I am excited about the West Coast. So I'm about to go to the West Coast. Oh, I would give this session okay, we didn't have a topic, so I'll take a little of that because it's hard to get topics and all that. But I would give it a 6.8 because it was really, really valuable session. I think we just addressed a lot today, and so many exciting things going on. So we have the West Coast session, and then we have the California session, then we have the NorCal session coming up in the next hour and a half. So it's just super exciting. It goes one session after another. Boom, 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 boom. So I will talk to you later, and feel free to hit me up any questions in the week regarding Sociocracy before Wednesday. But yes.
Awesome.
Check.
Thank you.
Do you want to check out? Your turn.
I have a headache. Have a good day.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Ciao.